So what is proofreading? Your essential questions for this presentation are the unit essential question, how will the organization of a business letter affect its success? And your two lesson essential questions are, why is the physical appearance of a business letter important? And the second lesson essential question, why is it important to proofread your work, especially in a business setting? So we're not going to worry about the Socratic warm-up grammar test. Let's go view the warm-up Socratic grammar test. I'm just going to walk you through it. You don't actually have to take it. Proofreading. Is it really necessary? Can't I just type my work, print it out, and hand it in? All right, I guess I'll spell check my work. Maybe that'll get Mrs. Smith off my back. By the way, no, it won't. Let's now go to the warm-up Socratic activating exercise in Socratic. Again, I'm not going to make you do this, but I will go through it with you. Definition of terms. We have three terms that we're going to look at: evaluating, revising, and proofreading. Evaluating is defined as the process of analyzing whether your message has achieved its purpose. After you've done evaluating it, then you maybe need to revise it. And revising is the process of improving the content and sentence structure of your message. And then finally, before you either print out or hand in your final copy, proofreading. Proofreading is the process of correcting the mechanics of your message, checking for grammatical and punctuation errors. So here's the proofreader marks handout page. Now, you should have seen this. You should have gone through it and had it explained in one of the, I think it was the letter video from the last unit. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this, but just want to point out that it's in proofreading that obviously you are going to use the proofreader's marks. Get to know these because you will be using them on other people's papers when you peer edit, and I may be giving you documents back with these marks on them, and you need to know what the heck the little red squiggly marks on your paper are all about. All right, so after you've reviewed the proofreader marks handout, it's your turn. So we're going to look at and proofread the article on the next slide. Do you see any errors? So I want you to take a minute and read this article. Pause this video while you read it. Here's the article rewritten. Maybe this one's a little bit easier to read. So I want you to pause this video as you read this, and I want you to try to figure out, how many errors do you find? If you were in the seated class, I would set a timer for 5 minutes and give everybody 5 minutes to go over this. But I want you to just take a real quick view and see if you can figure out how many errors there are in this document. Pause the video now. Okay, let's move on. So why is proofreading important? Well, errors are easily overlooked by the author. When you are typing a paper Oftentimes your mind, when you go to proofread it, your mind will correct any errors that you see that you've just typed. Okay, so it has this tendency to fix your errors. So it's always a good idea to either walk away and come back later or to involve somebody else in the proofreading. Obviously, the best option is to have somebody else help you with the proofreading and not just do it yourself. So here's a different way of reading. So according to research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter. So here's an exercise at how does your brain function? So this is called a different way of reading. And see if you can read this, and spot any errors in this. Okay, if I were to read this, I would read this as, according to research at Cambridge University, it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word are. The only important thing is that the first and last letter be at the right place. The rest can be a total mess, and you can still read it without a problem. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. Obviously, you don't ever want to hand in a paper that looks like this, but your mind, quote unquote, fixes these words. All right, so is running spell checker enough? The answer is no, but I have a little poem here that I'm going to read to you. So I want you to see how many spelling errors and grammatical errors you see as we go along. So I have a spelling checker. It came with my PC. It plainly marks for my review mistakes I cannot see. I strike a key and type a word and wait for it to say whether I am wrong or right. It shows me straight away. As soon as a mistake is made, it knows before too long, and I can put the error right. It's rarely ever wrong. I have run this poem through it. I'm sure you're pleased to know it's letter perfect all the way. My checker told me so. So how many spelling errors are there in this little poem? Well, hopefully you said none, because every single word in this little poem here is spelled correctly. However, most of the words have been used incorrectly. If you look at the very first word, I don't mean I as in my eyeball. I mean I as me, myself, and I. So every word is there right, but most of the words are used incorrectly. So business writing style. Studying business letter format is important. Studying business writing style is also important. So again, let's revisit these essential questions. So the unit essential question, how will the organization of a business letter affect its success? And your two lesson essential questions, why is the physical appearance of a business letter important? And why is it important to proofread your work, especially in a business setting? So business style elements. There are 4 style elements that you need to pay attention to. They are tone, attitude, the you approach, and organization. So you should have read by now a handout or an article that covered these, but I just want to hit the high points. Okay, so business style element number 1 is called tone. So second to grammatical correctness, achieving an appropriate business style may be the biggest problem for the writer of business letters. A sure sign of an experienced writer, in fact, is the obvious attempt to sound businesslike. The example that we have here, sound business-minded, not businesslike, obvious attempt to sound too businesslike. The example here is, as per your request, please find enclosed herewith a check in the amount of $16.49. Obviously, this does not sound at all like how somebody would probably talk, and it is not how you should write in a business setting. You want to sound business minded but not sound business-like. So this example that I just read makes a letter sound stiff, old-fashioned, and actually contributes nothing to the message because people don't talk like this, and so people are going to read that and they're just going to keep on going. Underneath it is a more business-minded and a natural version. So to say the exact same thing, we can rewrite this so it sounds a little bit more personal, a little bit more friendly. And it would read, as you requested, I'm enclosing a check for $16.49. First off, it sounds more like how most people talk, so it should be how you write. It's also more efficient. It uses fewer words, takes less time to write and prepare, as well as to read and comprehend. So you want to resist the temptation to sound businesslike. And if you do this, you'll end up being more business-minded. And most important is that you've built and maintain goodwill. All right, business style element number 2, attitude. So while striving for a natural tone, you want to aim for positive attitude. Even when the subject of your letter is unpleasant, it's important to remain courteous and tactful. Remember from the last unit that building and maintaining goodwill is important and should be the underlying goal of just about any letter that you write. Instead of, we have received your order, which sounds very stiff, very formal, instead, maybe, thank you for your recent order. Okay, the S in there should be gone. I have a typo. Thank you for your recent order. Instead of, checking our records, we have verified the error in your November bill. Try writing, please accept our sincere apologies for the error in your November bill. A simple please or thank you is often enough to make a mundane letter more courteous. Business style element number 3, the you approach, otherwise known as being reader-centered. When used in when writing your business letter, the you approach is not meant for you to avoid using I and we when necessary, but when you do use them, you need to keep 3 things in mind. First, use I when referring to yourself or the letter signer. Use we when you're referring to the company itself. And the third thing that you need to keep in mind is do not use the company name or our company, both of which sound pretty stilted. This would be like referring to you by your first and last name in a conversation with yourself. It's a third person, and I would never, in a conversation with you, say, well, Mrs. Smith believes that the best idea is, or Mrs. Smith suggests that. It just is, it's wrong, and it sounds wrong, and it's very off-putting for people who are listening. The other thing that you need to keep in mind is be careful when using your reader's name. Use it sparingly in the body of your letter. Although the practice seems at first glance to personalize a letter, it can sound condescending if you use the person's name too often. So I wouldn't say, if I'm in a conversation with Johnny, I wouldn't say, so Johnny, how are you doing today, Johnny? Johnny, can you tell me what the weather is like outside today? Johnny, thank you very much for telling me how the weather is outside today. It just sounds very strange. So again, your letter should be reader-oriented. And it should sound as if you share your reader's point of view. So a good way to say a phrase might be, please accept our apologies for the delay, but a better way of saying this would be, we hope that you have not been seriously inconvenienced by the delay. It sounds more reader-centered. It makes it sound as if you truly care about them, and it's not about you, the company, and trying to cover your tracks, but it sounds like you have a sincere interest in making them happy, or are truly apologizing and feel remorseful almost for inconveniencing them. And style element number 4, organization. So your business letters must be organized. You must plan out in advance everything that you want to say. Say everything necessary to your message and then stop. In short, a letter must be logical, complete, and concise. When you're planning a letter, before you start to write, you should make some notes to yourself. Jot down the main point that you want to make, then list all the details necessary to make that point, your facts, reasons, explanations, and so forth. And finally, rearrange your list. In your letter, you want to mention things in a logical order so that your message comes across as clearly as possible. And also, know when to stop. Don't say too much. And if a message is brief, resist the temptation to pad it, to make it longer. If you've said what you have to say in just a few lines, don't try to fill the letter out to make it look longer or appear longer to sound more meaty. Say what you need to say and then move on. All right, so your style elements in general. If you follow these 4 basic style elements, your message will come across as clearly as possible. You need to know in your mind when the letter is finished. Resist the urge to pad a brief letter. And if you've said what you have to say in just a few lines, don't try to fill the letter out. One mistake is to reiterate an idea. If you've already offered your thanks, you'll upset the logical order and therefore the impact of your letter if you restate that. All right, so the next thing that you're going to do is take a look at what is called the memo revised for conciseness. Memo revised. The next thing you're going to do is look at the memo revised for conciseness. You'll find this out in StudyWiz in the Unit 5 folder, and inside that folder is a subfolder called Proofreading. So this memo revised for conciseness is in the Proofreading folder. What I want you to do is I want you to look at it. I want you to think about what the errors are according to these 4 business style elements. And then I want you to rewrite the letter, making the corrections noted by the proofreader marks. So I've already gone through it as if you wrote this letter, you gave it to me, and I proofread it, and I'm giving it back to you. You're going to make all those corrections that I've put on there using the proofreader marks, and you're going to type out how the letter should appear in its final form prior to sending it, say, to a client. Okay, and then you're going to turn in the printed out version of your final memo. And you're going to hand that in through the assignment tracker, which this assignment should be detailed in the weekly study guide. So take a moment now and do this memo revised for conciseness.